I'm Shannon Saviola. Welcome to Akron's 21st Century Local History Club.
Thanks.
What might your name be?
My name is Ray Perkins.
What was your occupation?
I have many. My most recent occupation before I retired was as a physician assistant at the VA hospital in Buffalo, coordinator of the clinics and ambulatory surgery unit for the surgical service.
Wow. um, what were some of your other occupations?
I can go way back in history if you want. When I graduated from high school back in 1956, that's long before you were born, I joined the Navy, studied to be a hospital corpsman, and went through 16-week school at Bainbridge, Maryland, and went to the Naval Hospital at Bethesda. From there, I went to the School of Aviation Medicine down in Pensacola, Florida. After that, I went through several different tours at the Marine Corps Air Station at Quantico, Virginia, a couple of aircraft carriers. Went to School of Aviation Physiology, and was in during the on a carrier off the Bay of Pigs when that fiasco happened, and also with a patrol squadron down in Florida during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And I went to the School of Field Medicine at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina, because I was assigned to the Marine Corps as a medic and went to Vietnam with the Marine Rifle Company. That was in 1966 and 67. Came back, got out of the service, had 10 and a half years, and I got out for some personal family reasons. And came up to Buffalo, worked at on a research grant with an anesthesiologist on a heart-lung machine, and in a unit called a hyperbaric chamber. That's when I became a hyperbaric chamber operator. And
What's a hyper?
Hyperbaric. Hyper is high, baric is pressure, so it's high pressure. And it's a unit similar to the one they have down at Millard Fillmore Hospital. It's increased oxygen under pressure, and it's used for the treatment of carbon monoxide poisoning, which is an emergent treatment. Very dramatic, reversal of the symptoms that you get in carbon monoxide poisoning. You've probably read about that or seen it on TV. And also for treatment of gas gangrene and a bunch of other things. We did a research study on chronic brain syndrome, which most people know of as senility. And while I was there, I was asked if I'd like to teach a course at the university. So I filled out the syllabus, did all of the paperwork and everything, and submitted this back in 1972 to the dean of the university at that time. His name was Ketter. And they accepted that, and I started teaching a course called the aging process, teaching young university students what the aging process for getting older is all about. And I dealt pretty much with the pathophysiology of aging. Later on, in 1979, with encouragement from a warrant officer at the VA hospital, said I should go back in and finish up my service time. So I went out to the at that time it was the 365th Evacuation Hospital, the Army Medical Unit, and started working in nuclear, biological, and chemical defense. Didn't think the lightning would ever strike twice, but I called up for Desert Storm, and went over to Desert Storm with the hospital unit, and came back from there and rejoined civilian life again. And pretty much after that, everything was just working towards retirement from the military and worked for retirement from the Veterans Hospital. I finally ended up with 27 years and 3 months time with the military, both active duty and reserve time, and 32 years at the VA hospital in Buffalo.
Wow, you've always done stuff with medicine.
Yeah.
You mentioned during Vietnam and Desert Storm you worked with the hospital.
Well, in Vietnam, I worked as a medic in the field, actually, where the fighting was going on. And in Desert Storm, I worked with the hospital unit pretty much for their nuclear, biological, and chemical defense over in Saudi Arabia.
What was it like, all those people, like, having to treat, like, all these people who had, like, wounds and stuff, and...
Gives you a deep appreciation for what life is all about. And I had a very good instructor. As there were 180 of us corpsmen who went through the field medical school at Camp Lejeune, and we had the luck of having a drill instructor, Marine drill instructor, who had come back from Vietnam, and they wanted to teach the corpsmen what it was like over there. So they took us out on forced marches, 5-mile forced march, 10-mile forced march. Gave us some very good tips on walking down a road. If you run into water, most people want to walk around the water. We walked around the water. He made us turn around, go back, and walk through the water. He says because if they lay booby traps, they'll lay it along the side of the road or along the side of the rice paddy because they know that people don't like to get their feet wet. Then they had some trail was booby traps. There were different logs with spikes on them, and they would trip those, and you could see those come down. And what would happen if you were in the trail? You get impaled. Some of the other things that the Viet Cong used in Vietnam were some pointed wooden sticks called punchy sticks, and they would put these in a pit, and they would dip them in human feces, if you know what feces is, right?
Yeah.
And then point those up so that if you fell into that punji pit, it was covered over with leaves and grass and other stuff, and if you fell into that, just getting one of those stakes through you would be enough, but with the feces on there, it would contaminate the inside of your body.
Ew. It's disgusting.
So it gave me a deep and abiding appreciation for life, and I always wanted to go back and buy that drill instructor anything he wanted to drink, because everything that he taught us proved true. And had it not been for some of the things that he taught us, I may not be here talking to you today. But the wounds are different than anything you've ever seen on television. Do you ever see Saving Private Ryan?
Yes, I did. I saw parts of it.
That's the closest that you can get to an accurate description or visualization of what wounds are really like.
Oh my gosh.
That's what combat's all about.
Ew, was it almost like, were you like almost working like all the time?
No, I mean, there were days when there was nothing going on. There would be just, you go out on patrol or go out and set up in the night ambush. We'd go out to the villages and do what they call a med cap, which is going out and treating the villagers, taking care of them, any problems that they have. The Vietnamese people were very stoic, very tough people. I remember one old man that had a bad tooth, and he said, "Pull it." And I said, "Well, I don't have any anesthetic for you." You don't need it. So I pulled his tooth, and he winced a little bit, and I would have probably fainted myself, but just went on, and
wow.
I put a pack in there for him, and he was fine.
Wow. I can do that.
Most people don't like to go to the dentist, period, but...
I'm out there all the time, my braces. You did the same type of stuff in Desert Storm, or?
Desert Storm was totally different thing. Schwarzkopf, interestingly enough, had been over in Vietnam as a company commander, and he made a vow when he came out of Vietnam that if he ever went to war again, he would never make the same mistakes that people made over there, which is pretty much letting the politicians run the war. So if you notice that anything you've seen on Desert Shield, Desert Storm, there wasn't a lot of involvement from the politicians. They pretty much gave the military the go-ahead. And that's why Schwarzkopf was able to carry off the 100-hour war. And a lot of people thought that they should have kept on going, but that actually wasn't up to him. It was part of the coalition agreement. If the United States and the coalition had kept going towards Iraq, that would have ruined all of the relations with all of the Arab states, because they had done what they had set out to do, and that was to liberate Kuwait. So it was totally different. We expected a lot of chemical, potential biological casualties. I went to a secret briefing down in Maryland where we were at before we went overseas, and a young lady who was part of the intelligence crew gave my captain and myself a briefing on what we should expect when we went over there. And she, on the map, she had plotted out where all of the chemical munitions dumps were, where all the potential hazards were, the fact that he had huge cables running into the sea where he expected the Marines to come ashore, and they were going to energize those with electricity to electrocute them as they came ashore. A lot of other things that he said he was going to do. One of the things he had planned on was using chemicals, but luckily for us, the wind shifted and it blew the opposite direction. So if his army had used chemicals, they would have blown back on them and made them casualties. So we didn't receive any of the casualties that we expected to. Most of the casualties that were up north were evacuated right away to Germany. They didn't go through an outfit like ours. We had 400 beds set up, 6 operating rooms, an entirely different intensive care unit that you're used to seeing, and worked basically 12-hour shifts, 12 on, 12 off, when everything was going on. And then after the war ended, it was basically packing up and getting ready to go home. So we went in November down to Maryland. I left there on New Year's Eve. Went to Dover, Delaware, and we flew out of there New Year's Day of '91, and we came back in April. So it's a very short period of time.
Very short period of time. When did you move to Akron?
Moved to Akron in 1977, the year of the blizzard, but not during the blizzard. But we did move in December during a snowstorm. We moved ourselves. We had 7 children. My wife and I and some couple of neighbors where we used to live gave us a hand. And after we finished the 5th round trip about midnight, backed the truck up to the door and just collapsed all over the place, and woke up the next morning and started putting things away. So I live on 5 Cummings Avenue, and I learned that when you live in Akron, when you move here from out of the village from some other place, that you have to live in a house for 10 years before people associate it with being yours. So for the first 10 years I was there, I had to tell people that I lived in Charlie Taylor's house, because Charlie Taylor was the original owner and had an insurance agency.
Where did you move from?
We moved from Amherst, North Tonawanda. It was North Tonawanda for mailing address, Amherst for taxes. Near Sweet Home High School. A street called Bucyrus Drive. So it's kind of in the Amherst, North Tonawanda area.
What made you decide to move to Akron?
When the taxes got too high in that neck of the woods, and at that time they got up to about $2,000. So in 1977, that was a lot of money. It still is. We decided to look around, and we looked all over the place, out this direction, Barker and towards Lockport, and happened to see this ad for a house in Akron. So we came, looked at it, and fell in love with it, and been there ever since.
You had 7 kids?
Yes, 5 girls and 2 boys. My one son lives in Lockport. The other son lives down in Arizona. He's finishing a nursing school. The other 5 girls are spread out all over the place. One of which lives here in Akron, down on Cedar Street, and works here at the school. She has 4 boys. And my other daughter, the baby of the family, finished up with her bachelor's degree cum laude at University of Albany, and she's finishing up now for teaching through Buff State. In fact, she's doing her student teaching right now down at Clarence, and then she's going to, in March, she moves over to Alden to finish up. So she's kind of anxious to get finished up because she'll be done in May, and then she'll go out and look for a job and start teaching.
Oh.
So that was a bundle. We ate a lot of macaroni and cheese and hamburger helper, and when somebody would ask me what steak is, I'd say, what is that? But then after all the children were gone, although my one daughter still pretty much lives at home while she's going to school and working and doing that, but she also has a boyfriend, so she's off to see him.
Oh. How do you feel about Akron?
I love Akron. I come from a small town myself. I was born in Arcade, New York, and then I moved to Salamanca with my family. Of course, my dad got a better job offer, and didn't think I'd ever come back to Western New York when I went in the Navy, but here I am. I'm back in a small town again, back in Akron.
I heard you were running for mayor. How did you get into politics?
Well, I didn't start out to be a politician, but basically I'm a Democrat, and Democrats are kind of a minority in Akron, which is pretty much the village and the town are a Republican stronghold, so to speak. So it's kind of an uphill battle. I did run for village trustee 2 years ago, and pretty much famous for being one vote Ray, because I lost by 1 vote.
Ooh.
In fact, it was so close that the Board of Elections came out and did a recount of the votes to make sure it was all on the up and up. So I did lose by 1 vote, so that was the strongest showing they'd had in some time. And when I'm running for mayor, and somebody said, have you lost your mind? I said, well, probably, but no. If people ask me why I run for mayor, and I said, I feel I can make a difference. And this thing may sound a little hokey, but I said, it's not about politics, not about this party or that party. It's about getting the job done. There's a lot of things that the present board and the mayor have done. There's a lot more that I think that I can do along with the trustees and with some volunteerism from the community, and I think we can really make Akron more to be proud of than we are of it already.
I hope you win. What kind of awards have you won?
Military awards is probably the predominant one. One that I wear all the time here is one that I got when I was serving in Vietnam. It's called a Navy Commendation Medal. It has what they call a Combat V, or a Combat Distinguishing Mark, that goes with the original medal. I got that for being, I don't want to say dumb, not dumb, but just from training, saving some Marines under fire, bringing in some helicopters to evacuate our wounded under fire, and never really expected anything from that. It was just considered doing my job, and when I got back from Vietnam, I received a notice that I had received the Navy Commendation Medal from the Secretary of the Navy, and a recommendation from the Commanding General of the Marine Corps. My unit also received the Presidential Unit Citation, which is a pretty prestigious award. And there are a lot of other ribbons and medals that go with whether you're in Vietnam or if you're in Desert Storm, or things that you do when you're in the service that kind of everybody gets. One was the Navy Expeditionary Medal. Got that from when we were down off the Bay of Pigs. And civilian, the only really civilian medal that I've received is the Conspicuous Service Cross, and that was from New York State, recognizing my service in Vietnam and Desert Storm for valor service. So that's pretty much it for medals and awards.
Is there any questions from the audience?
Yes, I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
First of all, I'd like to know, what changes do you hope to make as mayor?
The list is long.
Give us a few of your long-term projects.
One of the predominant ones is if it hasn't been stabilized already, the cable contract. It's 4 years past due. Want to find out if it hasn't been solidified by the, if I make the grade and make mayor with the votes. We'll find out what's going on with that and get that signed. It's 4 years past due. There's some talk about water, tapping into Erie County water, and I'd rather avoid that at all costs. Akron has excellent water. We could probably bottle it and sell it because it's that good. And I have a feeling that if we tap into Erie County water, people are not going to be happy with the quality of the water and also the price might go up considerably. Maybe not immediately, but it certainly would down the line.
I have Erie County water.
Like to keep our cheap electricity too.
I'm all for that.
One of the reasons that we liked Akron when we moved out here. And with 7 children, especially 5 of them with girls, being girls, using blow dryers, it really counts.
Well, you lived in the town, not the village, correct?
Village.
Oh, it was village on Cummings? Okay. I also have some questions here. You said you were involved in the Bay of Pigs and the Cuban Missile Crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Could you please tell us a little of each one?
Sure. I was on an aircraft carrier, the USS Independence, which is still afloat. Still it was off the coast of, or in the Persian Gulf during Desert Storm. Basically, our carrier set off the Bay of Pigs out at sea, and it was an interesting thing to watch because at that time I was younger, and they spray painted over all the markings on the planes that they launched to give some support. The jet photo Crusaders that they launched, spray painted all the markings off of those. Some of them came back with bullet holes, and that was very interesting to observe. Cuban Missile Crisis, the patrol squadron I was stationed with up in Maine, deployed down to Florida to be ready to fulfill their mission, which was patrolling the waters, looking for Russian ships, seeing what kind of cargo they're bringing in, if they're bringing in more missiles, or if they were going to take missiles out of Cuba.
What year was that?
Testing my memory now.
Mine too.
That would have been 1965 for the Cuban Missile Crisis, and for the Bay of Pigs around 1962. I loved history, but you'd have to check on that one to be sure.
I have a hard time with that myself.
I love this.
I know we're kind of skipping around, but I do have one last question. I would like to know if you were a member of the Board of Education in the Akron Central School System,
Yeah.
and when was that?
When was that? That was in, oh gosh, I gotta think back now. Let me check my memory today here.
Certainly.
I'd have to say probably 6 years, probably around 97, I should say.
And who were you working under? Who was your superintendent?
Superintendent that time was,
Doc Fish?
no,
Oh, I'm losing it too.
Mr. Derry?
Bolton?
Derry and Bolton.
Bolton.
was George, I think.
Okay,
First was Bolton,
Mr.
and then
Bolton.
with, Mr. Derry.
Okay. So that was before any of the renovations or any of these plans came up?
Before any of the present plans, yes. At that time, there was some renovations that were going on, some of the initial ones, and then years later, now we did the most recent one.
All right. Very good. Wonderful.
If that wasn't enough, then I started the community education program here. And we just finished the 6th year, and I recently kind of retired from that to do some other things.
Okay, so you were the initiator of that program?
Mhm.
That's wonderful. You accomplished a great deal with that.
And
That's
so-
great benefit to the adults of this community.
Yep, it was long overdue.
We thank you for that.
Oh, thank you.
Okay. Thank you for coming. It's a pleasure meeting you.
My pleasure.